Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we are going to discuss the material English grammar lesson, that is create and comparison. In this chapter, we are going to explain you comparison equality, non-scalar comparison, and comparative clauses. The first presentation will be presented by me. My name is Afiatus Sonia Anasagoras with student ID number 193200171. And the second presentation will be presented by Meli Maulidia with student ID number 193200183. So let's start to discuss. Comparison of equality. Superiority and inferiority represent two kinds of inequality, but there are also comparisons of equality. This, like inferiority, is always marked by a modifying adverb, like the examples below. Kim is as tall as Pat. Kim is as energetic as Pat. For the first example says that Kim's height is at least equal to Pat's, not that it is identical. We can say without contradictions that is Kim is as tall as Pat, in fact, slightly taller. And the negative, that is Kim is not as tall as Pat, entails that Kim is shorter than Pat, not simply that Kim's height is different, either lower or higher on the height scale. For the second example, Kim is at least as high on the energetic scale as Pat. As normally understood, energetic does not denote a quality that can be precisely measured, as height can. So the issue of whether Kim and Pat are exactly equal on this scale does not really arise. From example above contains two occurrences of as. The first as is an adverb of degree, like more and less, except that it can modify determinatives. The second as is a preposition, like then. As is used for equality and then for inequality. In some contexts, primarily negatives, the adverb as is replaceable by so, and in some familiar phrases it is omitted altogether, like the examples below. It was not so straightforward as I had been led to expect. The sea was flat as a pancake. And for the next is non-scalar comparison. All the comparisons considered so far have been concerned with relative position on some scale, with relative degrees of some credible property. There is also a type of comparison where the issue is not a matter of relative degree, but simply of identity or similarity. We call this non-scalar comparison. The prepositions as and then are found here, so we can generalize the contrast between equality marked by as and inequality marked by then, like the examples below. The first example is equality. That is, we went by the same road as we usually take. And the second example, inequality, that is, we went by a different road than we usually take. The first example expresses identity and the second is non-identity. For the second example, not all speakers use these constructions. Some speakers would use a more complex construction with from and a noun phrase here, like we went by a different road from the one we usually take.
Okay, next, there are two items. However, the lesson then complement for all speakers. namely other and else. Let's see the examples. 1. There must be some other way of doing it than this. 2. Anyone else than you would have complained. We only choose different in examples of equality and inequality because it permits a more direct contrast with same. Next, comparative clauses. The preposition than and as often take as complement a distinctive type of subordinate clause called a comparative clause. Let's see the examples. 1. She did better in the exam than we thought she would. It is superiority. 2. The treatment was less painful than it was last time. It is inferiority. 3. The pool is nearly as wide as it is long. It is scalar equality. 4. They come from the same part of Britain as I come from. It is non-scalar equality. There are 2 points about the terminology used here that should be noted. First, comparative has a broader sense in comparative clause than elsewhere. Second, comparative clause applies to the subordinate clause expressing the secondary terms in the comparison, not to the metric clause that expresses the comparison as a whole. In example 1, the complement of would is left understood. We could add do, but there would still be a missing adjunct. In example 2, there is an obligatory missing predicative complement. It is understood as why painful. And then it is not so obvious that we have reduction in example 3. Since it is long, can occur as unreduced main clause. Nevertheless, in this comparative contraction, there is a missing degree modifier corresponding to the variable y. And then, in example 4, the preposition from occur without a complement. This cannot happen in canonical clauses. Next, a further case of as in non-scalar comparison of equality. In the example of preposition as plus comparative clause given so far, the as is in contraction with the adverb as marking scalar equality, or with the adjective same marking non-scalar equality. As can also occur in non-scalar comparison without any such preceding items to license it. Let's see the examples. 1. As we expected, he refused to compromise. He didn't behave as he usually does. In 1, the comparison is between what we expected to happen and what did in fact happen. In 2, we are comparing his behavior on a particular occasion with his usual behavior. We understand he didn't behave in X manner. He usually behaves in Y manner. And the last, comparative clauses as complement to like. In non-scalar comparison of equality, we also find comparative clauses after the preposition like. To like takes content clauses as well. Compare then. 1. They don't get on like they used to. It is comparative clause. 2. It looks like it's going to rain. It is content clause. In 1, we have the familiar kind of comparison between the way they get on now and the way they used to get on. And then the content clause contraction in to most often occurs after look or sound, and the meaning is similar to that with appear plus content clause. It appears that it is going to rain, unlike they used to in one. It's going to rain is not reduced. Right, that's all our presentation. We hope you get the point. And if you have any question, please post your question in the discussion group or WhatsApp group. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.